So this is my final video for my final project, and I am doing it in a essay reflection type form as opposed to what I originally was going to do, which was a vlog form. And I changed it up because the vlog form was getting overly complicated and it was getting unnecessary with my talking, I guess. So I wanted to make it a bit shorter and also get more to the point, especially having questions to help fuel that drive that point. So I've changed the concept to speaking about my work that I'm documenting through more of my reflection of the experience and less of like what's going on. Like instead of following me around, I'm gonna be basically just answering questions about what happened. So this will be my essay. So part of this reflective video essay is I'm going to be answering a series of questions relating to the topic, and I'm going to pretty much explain and show through short examples the showing different point pretty much showing the experience and then answering the question as well. So this will be through that method basically. So what did I set out to do? I didn't honestly set out to try and finish it. I knew I wasn't, I didn't know if I was going to finish the dress or not, honestly. It really was kind of an up and down hill kind of to climb, since even though I was pretty confident in myself and my abilities, I'm not an advanced seamstress. I'm not going to be perfect. My lines are going to be choppy as crap, and I understand that. So I was hopeful that I could finish, but I was also not too chipper, if you get what I mean. So I set out more to just really gain the knowledge and experience of the actual process itself, more than I really did to try and finish it all in 1 week. And if anything, I got more stress from actually videotaping it than I did actually making the dress. So that doesn't say one thing. I don't know what it says. So yeah, that's pretty much what I set out to do. So what did I do to prep for this? Well, first of all I planned it out first. Like I wanted to have every single piece mapped out. I'm very much like a visual kind of person, and if I have an idea about something, I need to write it down. And part of my experience with this would be mapping it out, like every piece of it, to make sure that I could place it in the proper, make sure I could place it properly. And so I made as many sketches as I thought about, like different ideas, different designs, different kinds of ways of making it. Like I even like pieced out like a weird arrangement of the fabric pieces so that I know like where things would go, or where I think seam lines should be, and where I think things should connect. Like I really thought about this as like a puzzle, and like a geometric puzzle that really that was organized in a way that could look glamorous. And so and I'm not sure if that's how all designers look at it, but that's kind of how I look at when I do set design for things. I really I pick apart like I pick apart the play, and I map out certain things that happen in the play, and I make sure to highlight that in the set, and I make sure that I can really play into that and make sure that the actors can play into it and that it looks visually appealing. Like, I want it mapped out as like meticulously as possible. So yeah, all those levels of design and making sure things are laid out and put together properly. Those are all important factors, no matter what design interests or category you're going in or professional in. So the next thing that I also had to get were the fabric materials at Walmart, and knowing my color scheme as well. I chose a red-blue color scheme, and so having the fabric, making sure I had thread. Thankfully, the sewing machine that I was given as well. The sewing machine was also part of the materials list. I really needed that, and so making sure that the thread was there, the sewing machine was there, and having scissors to cut it with. And in my case, instead of buying pattern pieces, I went crazy and I wanted to make my own because I'm very daring. And so I, in a very strange and creative kind of way, made my own pattern pieces out of cooking parchment paper. And so that was a very interesting idea, and it weirdly worked, actually. Like, it actually kind of worked, and I was very surprised at myself. I was like, oh, so you work. So and part of making sure of getting the pattern pieces correct was I also had to measure myself, and that's a really huge thing that I picked up from my costuming classes was measurement, and especially like attention to the detail. So with me, I took a whole bunch of measurements of myself, my hips, my waist, my bust, all of it, length, like upper top length, lower leg length. Like, I really, I wanted to make sure that I knew, my measurements so that I would not make mistakes in certain areas. So I wanted to make sure that it was very, so that was definitely my way of prepping, was the planning, materials list, the overall designing of color scheme as well as style, and making sure that I had pretty much everything I needed in order to make sure this was a success. So that's my prepping. So the type of dress that I went for, I bounced around with so many ideas and styles and so many different kinds of ways of looking at it that it was a lot. And I wanted to do something that I thought was comfortable, that I thought would make me look good and would make me feel good. I also took into account fabric type as well. I did not want to wear something scratchy or itchy. I have a huge sensitivity to fabrics and tags and things that scratch around me. It's gross. So I took that heavily into account as well when looking for fabric. And so the fabric that I settled on was kind of a silk and satin kind of thing, where it was felt silky, but it wasn't actual silk. And I got the fabric at Walmart, and I was very pleasantly surprised about their fabric pickouts. They had some pretty nice stuff there. And so it was definitely a good find. So I was really glad to find it. And so I ended up picking a style of dress that kind of just happened. And so the way that the dress was going to look, it's going to be like a tube top. And I was going to do a pencil skirt. I might still do that, but the way that it's kind of looking right now is more of an outer kind of skirt. And I want to see where this goes. I know I said meticulously planning is important, but the artist in me is kind of like I see it going one way and I won't see where it goes. So I'm very, very curious to find this out. And so the style at the moment looks kind of more like princessy kind of dress, kind of skirt, but with the tube top. And so I really want to really incorporate the colors of blue and red heavily, like not to the point where it's like one overshadows the other or it feels awkward, but I want it to blend nicely. So that's another thing I also took into account was color scheme. So that's why I chose that particular style. That's why I'm like kind of going towards these two particular styles. But right now I'm kind of seeing it going through more of the princess style. So I'm definitely interested to see about it. So yeah. So I'm also gonna go ahead and spoiler alert, pretty much tell the how my end result was. I did not, in fact, finish it. It is still a work in progress. However, I have pretty much all the pieces cut out. The only issue that I ran into and why I haven't gotten further is because on the sewing machine, so part of my process for planning wise, kind of going back to that question, was to make sure I had all my materials. I unfortunately was remiss in my judgment of testing out my sewing machine before I really started using it, and so part of a part of the sewing machine is not there, and that part is actually the like the container that holds the bobbin underneath, and it plays a pretty huge part in the actual sewing of the machine. And I did not realize that it was not with the machine originally, and that I would have to get my own. But I didn't realize that until it was kind of not. It wasn't too late, but it was kind of like, dude, that's not cool. So I browsed a couple of shops and I found them on Amazon. So I ordered some, and hopefully they'll get here pretty soon. Actually, I think tomorrow. Actually, so when I'm able to get a hold of those, I can actually start the sewing process. But at the moment, I have them cut out, and I think they look really cool. So yeah, I wasn't. My end result is not where I thought I would be, let alone not where I was hoping I would be. But I'm not too mad at it. If anything, I'm pretty relieved that I even got this far. Like the cutting itself was, I've heard, is the most like cutting out the fabric is, I've heard, is one of the more tedious bits, and that I've heard people say that the sewing is more relaxing. So I'm the way I'm thinking it or hoping that it will be that now that the cutting out the pieces is over, I can focus on the more like just the sitting in the kind of motion. And so from what I remember, there was like those moments where the sewing machine would get like, like blocked, or there would be like thread that would get stuck in places, and I do remember having to deal with those back in costuming. But but out of my own personal experience, I found that cutting the fabric was harder, mostly because I can't cut very well. I'm the worst cutter ever. I couldn't cut a straight line if I wanted to. So yeah, that's definitely, hopefully the hard part's over now. But now that since that piece is still missing, I wasn't able to get as far as I wanted to, which is disappointing. But if anything, it gives me more time to think about like where I'm going, and also kind of gives me a little bit of room to breathe. Like, I think with the case of every designer, it's important to kind of stop and look and see where you are instead of just kind of cruising ahead. And so I'm using this opportunity as kind of like a pause and kind of seeing where I'm at the moment. So I definitely wanted to make sure that this video essay knew that. So yeah, that's where my end result is at the moment. So, did the work change how I see sewing and fashion design all in general? If anything, more. It gave me more perspective on solo projects. I'm used to more group and collaborative stuff, even in costuming. Like, we did group projects, we did stuff for I did like little things for plays. I didn't do full blown outfits. I made masks for a play like a couple years ago, and that was like one. And then I helped making buttons and stuff like that. And I mean, I've helped the costume designer holding things. So there was hands-on experience, but there wasn't hands-on experience as in like I was assigned a task of making a full-blown outfit. So there was learning in this, and there was also refreshing in this. So I definitely had to refresh myself in how to use a sewing machine. I had to refresh myself in how pattern pieces worked, and like different stitching and connecting of fabrics, different kinds of seams, making sure I knew where and when to iron and stuff like that. So like having all those basics returned to me, knowledge, like the knowledge of those basics returned to me was important. And then also learning about like arrangement of patterns, like making sure everything had a place, and like, and of course making the pattern pieces, of course, like this was really a learning experience, if anything, and I take away a lot, like learning wise, I guess. So part of the experience of learning was I had to like I talked about before the research that I did, and watching quite a few videos about stuff, and yeah. So it didn't change it didn't change anything, as if like not in the sense that I had negative views in the first place, because I didn't. If anything, it reinforced how challenging it can be to really do seam work and do all those things. And if anything, it made me more interested in the subject as well. And it's definitely something that I will continue to do as well. Like, this ain't gonna be the first outfit I'm gonna make. Like, if anything, I might not make a dress again, but if anything, probably make pants. That's what I need most of, is pants or shorts, either or. But yeah, so it definitely gave me extra perspective and new look of how to view things as well. So this was, I didn't know, there was no negative changes. So I'm very excited about this, actually. I'm really excited. So, the conclusion. I also wanted to do a section about the video aspects. I focused on a lot about the actual garment design, garment creation. I also wanted to do the video aspect as well for creating the video. And creating the video for it was a lot harder than I expected. It involves switching a lot of hats between film thinking and fashion thinking. So it was definitely hard to kind of think about, like, it was a lot to think about, like positioning the camera, but also got to make sure that this is held straight. Got to make sure that this is cut evenly, but also make sure the camera can also get all of it. So it was a lot of like self-thinking when it came to like where I wanted the camera positions and stuff like that. And so then after that came the downloading and editing version. So editing was definitely the hardest part of this entire project, like besides the filming, besides the dressmaking, ironically. Editing was the hardest because it was a lot to edit. I had to cut that down to make sure that I got the important bits, because when I talk, there's a lot of and yeah and so in it. So there was a lot of stuff that I had to take out that was just extra, that wasn't really anything useful, that was just there. And so finding all of those and like picking apart, finding what information was important, that was a harder part, since there's I guess I have a lot of exposition when I talk, and that makes it hard to pick through. So finding the information, like the important information bits, was a challenge. And then also Premiere Pro was acting a little weird sometimes, and it deleted almost a good third of my original project. So like, they just took it did something weird where it was took the audio away and it took the video away, but it still had like the blue block there as if it still existed. I honestly don't know. So, which is also kind of another reason why I decided to do more of a reflective video instead of doing a full blown vlog, because I think that was causing more harm than it was good to the actual like program itself, and it clearly wasn't saving properly. I was going in circles, and I got tired. I don't want to keep going in circles, and I looked up videos on how to fix it. I kind of approached it into a new idea and kind of reworked it as well to where I could still get my point across, but also still have it be the way that I wanted it to be. So it's informative, but not too much exposition in between. So that's the way that I want it to be.